Greetings, family, and welcome to Ulu's New Reality. Thank you for joining us for our first segment of 2022. This is the beginning of a series where we will begin to focus on building economic sovereignty now and for future generations. This series will have a focus on wellness and healing our people. Part one will focus on healing our kings, mind, body, and soul. We believe our kings are at the forefront of this work. They play an integral role in building the family unit, laying the framework for a powerful vision, and breaking down barriers. What we are going to do today that we're happy to share with you, we're going to hear from some of our guests that will talk about their healing, their wellness, and their lens on how to build economic sovereignty. But before we jump into those conversations, we're going to hear brief introductions from our guests today. And we're going to start with Brother Robert.
Borigani family, this is your co-host for New Reality, Brother Robert, Us Lifted Us member, community organizer, revolutionary, creative, amongst a few other things. But I'm excited to be here today.
And next, we'll hear from Brother Ahmad.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ahmad Williams. I'm new to the space here. As my day job, I work as a senior workforce management analyst, and I'm very happy to be sharing in this space with everyone.
And next, we will hear from Brother Donnie.
My name is Donnie Maxey. I am a field services technician for Motorola Solutions. That's the day gig. Other than that, I'm a father, 3 boys, 1 daughter, and favorite hobby, just in case you want to know, sneakers.
Thank you. I love it. Well, thank you all for being with us today. The first question that we have for you to respond to is talk to us about the importance of healing as Black kings to build economic sovereignty for yourselves and for the community.
Well, healing is important for anything we do, right? Safe spaces, right? You have to be in a safe space. As long as you're on a battlefield, you don't have time to heal because you're trying to survive. There's a lot of things that are going on that are overlooked with Black men. We're separated a lot of times from our Black women through the women's suffrage or feminism. And sometimes that brings a lack of unity that prevents us from seeing each other, where we get into a situation where we compare our pains versus understanding that as a people, we all have pains, and your pain is not going to be exactly as mine, but we should find some unity together. So while we're trying to have some personal care, so to speak, healing, it's kind of challenging to do that when we're inundated on more than a daily basis with trauma for Black men. I would never take away anything from the pain that our Black women have experienced, but Black men, they don't know how to even articulate it. A lot of times the vocabulary isn't present. We lack the maturity at certain stages, and a lot of times we plateau with our intelligence because we believe we have to have thick skin. This machismo attitude towards how we resolve our life issues, and it fails us. It fails us frequently. We don't know why. Then we get frustrated. Some of us act outward, but a lot of us also turn inward. So it's a big onion to peel. It might be a big old red onion to peel because we're bleeding hearts too. We know how to love. We know how to nurture. We love our families. We love our friends. We love our parents. But a lot of times that's overlooked because of the imagery we see every day does not show us how we can heal. So when safe places or safe spaces like this, when they're created, you have to make, let's say that let's call it spies. Safety for your physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual self. You have to go ahead and make that error. I don't care if it's I'm gonna just go, walk 12 miles, or I'm gonna clean out a closet or a room, and I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna kneel down, meditate, or I'm gonna do some yoga, or I'm gonna play some video games with somebody that appreciates me. It's the little things that matter. I personally, my self-care is massage, acupuncture, a little physical therapy, and Cairo. Love it. Gets all the stuff out, all the stress that went down my back, it gets out. But it is very important for us to do that. Otherwise, what we do is we model the behavior that will negatively impact our prince and our princesses. So think about that and see how that works in your mind when you're thinking about healing. Do it for yourself first, because without a good you, there will be nothing else left for anybody else.
Absolutely. To piggyback, Brother Donnie, something that I learned over time, especially as a Black man, is how separated we can become from having access to basic human emotions. We're always taught to be better, stronger, faster, right, from a very, very, very young age. However, we don't really talk about how detrimental that can be to the growth when something emotional does happen. I come from a place where generally tears or any negative emotion that isn't anger, frustration, something that can be outwardly volatile, was reserved for funerals, essentially, right? So learning that the only time you can really be sad and let anything go is at a loss it further drives just the trauma to begin with, right? Especially when we think about the trauma that occurs in our families already. When we talk about building economic sovereignty, I've also learned that health is wealth. Something that we don't really talk about within our community is that it's okay to continue to learn. I remember getting to a point where, as I mentioned in our conversation pre-recording, where I thought that I knew what there was to know, right? I had gotten to a point where I was, pretty okay. I had someone in my life. I didn't have to think too much about what was going on. So thinking about even my own wellness and economic sovereignty was in a bubble, especially coming from a very scarcity, driven mindset. When we talk about economic sovereignty, we do have to believe that there's an abundance out there for all of us. And we have to stop stepping on each other, right, over the muse that's painted to us on what economic freedom looks like and building for ourselves. A lot of that comes with health. Even in my own journey, when I share with my family, my progress and things that are going on, they simply don't understand because it's not a journey that they've taken for themselves. I think that a lot of people get away from that because it isn't the most popular thing to do, right? Not until it's too late. Not until it's too late. Typically, we find that, especially in our Black households, there's sickness or disease, or there's a trigger for wellness as opposed to exploring wellness on your own. And over time, as you get healthy, the money, the economic freedom, stability, things that we would want to see in Black households will come.
Absolutely.
Yes. So you mentioned triggers. That's something very important. How are we taught to respond and react? That is really like the downfall of most Black men, right? You look at a lot of imagery and you see these bad boys and the girls have an affinity for these bad boys. And now with the explosion of social media, you have this imagery of this, perfect physique and just the right amount of bling and a little bit of flashiness, and you don't know how to just be you in your own skin. Mm-hmm. You're constantly trying to level up to the imagery that you're saturated with every day, whether it's social media, whether it's TV, whether it's your friends talking about it. It's somehow, some way, your self-esteem and your self-worth is under attack. And a lot of times it's under attack by people who pretty much don't look like you, because they only show you that, somebody with gold fronts can get all these ladies, so
Yeah.
you don't value yourself unless you go get some gold fronts. Meanwhile, you can't pay your bills, but you got these gold fronts. You got, one millionth of the image, but you don't have the other 999,999 of the points that you need to make sure that you are really living that kind of life. One thing that I learned in this past week, that if you want to do anything, that you need to do it with intent, and you need to be strategic, and you definitely need some allies. You need to have a community around you that's sustainable and that will support you. Because if you try to go on it alone, you may develop other, insecurities, or find that you've developed some sort of self-esteem issue while on this journey, because you don't have that support system. And that's what happens with a lot of black boys, because it doesn't just happen once we, get baritone in our voice and we walk around and we're men. It starts at a young age. I have 3 boys, and right now I can see how it's happening with my youngest son. I can see how the attack is making him disinterested in education and disinterested in life. And he's getting attacked all the time over little things. I volunteer for junior achievement, and I've been to the more white schools, and I'm telling you, it's like night and day. It's night and day. In our schools, Black kids got to be at a level 0. They can't have a voice. They always got to think about others. Well, when do you speak to yourself? The pandemic happened. Everybody was like, kids got to go back to school so they can socialize. They get back to school and they talk, and their grades are affected, or they get in trouble. Well, which one do you want them to do? They hear the news just like you, so it's confusing. And then when you get out into the real world, your subconscious starts to say, "Hey, why don't I have access to this? Or why wasn't I able to do this?" And a gentleman who spoke on Friday said, "Don't look at how fair or unfair things are. You got to start talking about what you're going to do to solve the problem." And a lot of times we get caught up in a discussion about what's not fair, and we lose sight of resolving the issue. So, and we were to really back in as to being a Black king and being royal. I say exercise wisdom, seek that understanding, make sure you have enough knowledge. I heard that I think you said, Ahmad, that you like reading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those are the components to success, right? Those are the things that are going to help you be successful. We have a 24-hour library. We don't know if everything is true on it or not, but we got Google. We have the internet now, so it's really not an excuse or a rhyme or reason for us not to seek out knowledge and try to understand things, or even listening to a podcast. Like, if you know that you're so-called closed-minded, go find a podcast to listen to see the struggles that other people have because they're shamed for something that who cares why,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what it boils down to. You got to start focusing on what's important. So I'm gonna go back to that intent. Make sure you're intentional, make sure you're strategic, and make sure you have some allies. Make sure you have that support system, because when you fall down and you're able to do those man tears, you're gonna want somebody to at least, talk you through it, hold your hand, hug you, kiss them away, or anything else, because that emotional support is very important.
Yeah, it is. And then again, to your point, we're at a point now where it's much more digestible. The optics of appearing rich, right? Get money fast, right? I'm not disagreeing with it, of course, I take fast money all the time, right? There's nothing wrong with that. However, becoming wealthy somehow is corny, right? I never remember hearing conversations growing up about becoming wealthy. It was always, do what you can do to get money now, right? And I don't think that it's that much different now. So when we look, at those in the entertainment space that are, kind of catalysts for Black behavior, so to speak, right? It's never really taken into account that their riches are leased or rented, right? Like they don't own this stuff, yet it's perpetuated for us to aspire to replicate that energy by any means necessary. And we don't talk about how damaging that becomes for ourselves, for our own wealth and growth, our own growth and wellness as a community overall, moving with intent. Like you said, you can learn how to be wealthy if you follow the rules or if you follow the steps to do it. If that's much more communicated, then the money that you're earning now can turn into that in the future. And it's crazy. I'm saying it. I'm 35 now, and I really feel like I'm now repeating what the handful of elders that actually had wealth when I was growing up were telling me all along, right? Were telling me all along. However, the distractions between today and wealthy are vast. And it's very, very easy to get caught up in the flashy. And like you said, Brother Donnie, you see where your boys are being influenced by being flashy, getting money quick, replicating some of the behaviors that, seem to get women and, are of instant gratification. Coming back to the original, question of wellness in the community, it does not come with instant gratification. And it's something that you have to grind for and work for. And the question is, how do we put people into the space to take the grind that will ultimately pay off the most?
And that's a great segue really into the next question I have. And Brother Robert, you can participate in adding to this piece, which is talk to us now about your personal journey along wellness. I know we talked about it before the recording, but now for our listeners and our viewers, we want to talk about some of the things that you personally have done, things that you have had challenges with, struggles that you've had to struggle with. It might be things you're still struggling with, and it might be some areas where you have come a long way and have developed some new practices that will be helpful to share around this new framework around what wellness looks like, specifically for Black men, right? There's been some stereotypes where, healing circles, for example, women are doing healing circles or they're doing things around wellness, but creating a new perspective where now we begin to focus on healing the king, healing the man, and thinking about what that looks like for our future generations. But again, and anybody can start. Talk to us about what that journey has looked like for you.
I'd like to jump in, and I'm going to actually tie my response to the first question into this one. First and foremost, we have to recognize that we are at war. We also have to recognize that we are warriors. And as warriors, our health and wellness really matters to our community. It matters to our war efforts, right? Who does it benefit when we are not healed, when we're not well? It doesn't benefit our community. How can we build institutions when we are so sluggish, so tired, so just emotionally beat down, physically beat down? We have to recognize that the food that we eat is used in war by those that wage war against us. We have to recognize that the workplaces, the way they set up the workplaces, all of these things are war, right? Tactics, right? And so when it comes to the economic impact, when we are not being who we are, when we're not operating at our best and we're not well, truthfully, our human resource, our energy, our minds, body, spirit, really it creates a deficit for our community. And really we can't, as people of African descent, as Africans who believe in self-determination, who believe in freedom, resistance, it's important for us from an economic standpoint, to push back and to resist those tactics that are used against us. Part of that led me to my personal journey, self-criticism, recognizing that as a African, as a warrior, as a revolutionary, I can talk theory and I can talk, all of this stuff and read all of these books, but there are some changes that I needed to make. Recognizing that food was a drug for me, and I had an unhealthy relationship with food, really formed me to do something about it. Recognizing that I'm of value to my community in several ways, formed me towards the end of 2019 to embark upon a journey that has caused me to lose approximately 160 pounds. A lot of it, quite honestly, first and foremost, was changing mindsets, right? Because food was my drug. Food was my drug of choice. I went to food when I wanted to feel good about myself. When I had a bad day, it was certain foods that I would go to. So changing those habits, changing my relationships with the universe, getting out in the atmosphere more, getting out in the environment, walking more, spending time in commune with the elements of the nature has led me to this point. And I'm really excited to hear more about how these brothers have progressed and a little bit about their journey. So I'm going to stop talking at this point and pass it over to my brother.
So, I love it when people talk about the universe now. I used to hear people talk about the universe. I'm like, for the love of God, stop talking about that. What universe, brother? But, when we get in touch with more of our ancestral spirituality, we understand that there is a universe out there, right? There is something out there, some external force that we cannot even see. It's intangible, but it helps us through. The power of the tongue. What do you manifest? I can even go back to what Brother Ma was saying about distractions, right? Sometimes we're our worst enemy. We sabotage ourselves. Self-sabotage is the lead to a lot of things. And that's born out of hesitation and fear. You sit around and you should pull the trigger on something. Like for me personally, as long as I've been with my company, I missed out on years of getting 15% off company stock. Literally 5 years I missed getting 15% off twice a year of company stock. Now that's ridiculous. I'm getting 15% off of their stock. Why wasn't I doing it? Because I thought that investing was the hardest thing in the world. Like, I'll be at home with 15 monitors looking like this and looking like that. And I got to do some trade places stuff and go make wheels and deals. And then I'm gonna make $1 million in 24 hours. That's not what it was. And then I would ask people who were investing, I'm like, yo, sit down, talk to me a little bit. And they was like, here, watch this video, YouTube this and YouTube that. And it's like, nah, that's not really the way I learn, or I'm really hesitant. And then I just said, forget it. First thing I did was I got that 15% stock. Next thing I did, after my E-Trade account was open, I was like, you know what? I got some money. I'm going to just start buying stuff. I'm going to look at some stuff I use every day. And I'm going to buy it. Levi's, Nike, Ralph Lauren. Why not? Why not own some of the stuff I utilize almost every day? And that's how we have to think about this stuff, right? If you want to talk about wealth, it's about being an owner and being an owner of something that you could pass down. If you can't pass anything down, then what's the purpose of it? If you have a Robinhood account, you can make a lot of money off of that, but you gotta either create a trust or write a will or something like that in order to get that money down to your kid, because they don't allow you to have beneficiaries. So it's a lot of little things out there that you have to look at. And I'm a brother. I used to work, get off work, go work out for like an hour and a half, take a nice shower, and go do 4 or 5 hours of Uber or Lyft right after work. Wake up the next day and do it all over again. It's driving me nuts. Not to say that I didn't make good money, but I got over $100,000 miles on a car in a year. I was killing myself. So the pandemic hit, I couldn't do it. I was forced to be more innovative in how I managed my finances. Mm-hmm. So it was a mindset I had to adopt. Like, my definition of need changed very quickly. And so did want, and so did desire. Those things got pushed way behind everything else. I just started chopping things away. And I haven't needed to drive Uber or Lyft since the pandemic started. And it's really crazy because inflation is like ridiculous. You know, a box of Cocoa Puffs is like $5.99, bro. I can't even have my sugar fix because it's just too much. So now I have to recalibrate. You know, your life should be fluid. If you're stuck saying this is the way I am, not only is that an untrue statement, but you are also conditioning yourself to be stagnant. You know, I'm not going to say I'm 100% perfect with that, but there's definitely things where I'm like, this might be how I am, but that's not how I want to be. So what am I going to do?
And Donnie, touch on your the emotional piece where you've made some that's been a new path for you since the pandemic as well.
So the emotional piece is therapy. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, learning how to be vulnerable without being weak or thinking that I'm vulnerable, so I'm weak. I'm vulnerable, so somebody could, you know, they could jump in and they could hurt me because I'm vulnerable. No, I know you said we're warriors, but we're fighting a lot of different wars. And with Black men specifically, it's that stereotype, right? Every kind of stereotype out there we fight against, good and bad. Because, you know, everything we create, they take, and then it's like it's obsolete. It's demonic or horrible when we do it. And then when they do it, all of a sudden it's dope. Like some of these dance moves, I'm looking at these, you know, 20-some-year-olds doing, I'm like, hey, I was doing that when I was a kid. A high five? Come on. We're doing high fives in the 70s. It's popular now. And you wouldn't think that, hey, some Black people, you know, made up that lingo. You think a high five is just a work thing to do. It's about not giving so much energy to that stuff, making sure you're talking to somebody. You got to figure out what kind of therapist you need if you want to do therapy. You can need a female therapist, Black woman. Maybe you need the white ones who like, well, how would you figure that out? What do you think you should do to solve that? Because I prefer a Black female, you know, or maybe you need a male. It all depends upon what your personality and your characteristics say you need. Because the worst thing you can do is sit there and be a full garbage can and never take out the trash. Then your cup runneth over with fecal matter.
Trash.
And you don't want to, you know, sometimes you got to go take a hot dump because you really are full of it because you're holding on to all that trash and garbage. You don't know what your body doesn't know what to do with it. So it turns it into things like fat. It turns it into body aches. It turns it into easy bruising. You know, you cut your finger and it takes 8 weeks for your finger to heal because you're stressed out. Your body isn't able to function. You can't sleep, right? You know, when you release those endorphins, you just can't feel as happy as you want to because you've practiced just, hey, man, this trash don't even smell that bad anymore. Matter of fact, it's all right. And you sitting in your trash and you wonder why nobody wants to be around you. You stink, bro. I mean, that's the emotional part of it. And it's not to say that everybody who has emotional trash is a bad person. It's just to say they built it up because we all learn at a different pace. Everybody's not going to wake up and be a mod and drop that weight like that. Like, man, I can't even drop 10 pounds, man. So I'm looking at y'all like, how they doing that? You know, it's just different strokes for different folks. But I guarantee you I'll figure it out with the right support and doing the right things. I can do what I want to do and get to where I want to be. But again, you have to be in that safe place, because if you're not in a safe place, Maslow's hierarchy of needs will always say it 100% of the time. You will not grow where you don't feel safe. So getting back to that mental health part of it, when you walk outside your doors in Black communities, well, what do you see in your community? Do you get to see a pub, you know, a clothing store, a thrift store, a bike shop, you know, a fishing hook shop, a smoke shop where everybody's nice? No, I mean, you walk out in our communities, there's some staples, right? It's going to be a tax place. It's going to be some daycares. There's going to be some churches. There's going to be probably more churches than liquor stores. There's going to be some mechanic shops. And it's going to be a whole bunch of like Sharks and Popeyes and Harold's and stuff in your community. It's like, well, even if I wanted to thrive in my community, I can't. So I'm going to tie this back into the wealth part. How can we keep our dollars in our community when we don't have anything in our community to pour into?
To spend it on. Yeah.
So we have to actually force, not the president, you know, not the governor, not even the mayor. If you're in Chicago, it's the alderperson, right? That's the person who can fight for zoning in your community. Like, you know, do we necessarily need 4 churches in one block? Or could we use something like a men's clinic? You know, someplace where you can earn a living wage and still live in the community. That's another thing, is that when we want to have free time, we can't. Why? Because we work 45 minutes from home, right? Or you have a 2-hour commute because traffic sucks. If you got to take Dan Ryan or the Kennedy or the Edens, that's your, what? You do that twice a day. Let's say it's 3 hours a day. Man, you done lost 15 hours in 1 week just driving. You lost 15 hours. That's a whole day, basically, because you need to sleep, right? And unwind. So when you think about it and you think about how things are structured for us, and that's why we say it's systemic, because it's like, even if we want to do something different, there's already systems in place that say, no, you can't do it. And then when we do it, there's systems in place to destroy what we built. So we have to figure out how to get our people in place to change the system. That is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, if I could chime in, something you said, Brother Donnie, I appreciate that. I think you really hit on the importance of a formation like ULU, Us Lifting Us, right? Where we are creating, right? We're creating the solutions to some of the issues. Now, it may be slow, they may be small scale, it may not reach mass adoption overnight. We are a group of African people that believe in self-determination, self-reliance, self-governance, even. Economic sovereignty has really kind of been the driving thing, economic sovereignty and wealth. You know, even having this platform where we can have these discussions, right? You all are guests on the platform that we're creating, and we appreciate that. And so it's important for us to make sure that we are actively engaging in creating those solutions. You know, we are creating businesses within Hulu, whether they are businesses in Ghana, businesses within the United States, which I would love to see, and I'm sure we're going to see in a very short time how that impacts health disparities, you know, within our community. So I just wanted to throw that out really quickly before we move to the next point.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Robert. So we're going to turn it over to Brother Ahmad. And again, the question we were talking about is, you know, talk to us about, you know, your path and what that has looked like for you.
Absolutely. Well, before I get into my path, just something that Brother Donnie said that it stuck out to me so much as far as what we need to do to grow, you know, in our own communities, right? Sometimes I question if we even want to do that. For example, there were 2 or 3 new corner stores not too far from my home that you know had their grand opening. None of them are Black owned, right? In fact, I don't know if I've ever seen a Black owned corner store ever in my life. For as prevalent as they are, that they've been And in my growing up, you know, and everyone's growing up, right? We all used to go to the store for chips, candy, pop, and all of that. I don't know if I've ever seen a Black-owned corner store ever for as prevalent as they are. Then as far as my own personal journey, started about 2.5 years ago. At the time, I was 454 pounds. I was smoking probably a pack of cigarettes a day. I was probably drinking a bottle of liquor every day. Complacency was my drug. For as many vices as I had, it was really me being okay with that being a cycle, right? Eating poorly because I thought that because I had a job, had a girl, had a place, I was cool, right? You know, I thought everything was good. And as far as what I had been taught, you know, like we were going to get married at the time, you know, I was like, okay, I guess I win, right? This is life. This is it. You know what I mean? I didn't really have anything to worry about. I started to recognize that my days looked like laying in the bed to get up to go to work, you know, sitting, getting ready to go to work, then sitting in the car to sit at work for 8 hours, and then sitting in the car to come home to then lay on the couch and eat.
Wow.
Right. And that was so cyclical that I didn't understand why I was getting so far away from the person that I knew was inside of me, right? When we talk about health and wellness, some people are afraid to actually go after the image of themselves that they know is true to them. So you start to accept wherever you are now as the end all be all, because change comes with sacrifice. It just does. I can't say it any better now than ever before. There are people in my life that have, you know, gone by the wayside. There are energies in my life that are no longer there that needed to go. Most importantly, and ironic to all of this, it started with me changing my eating habits. It literally started from within. I have a very close friend of mine who introduced me to the concept of fasting, started showing me the health benefits, showing me how I could make changes and what it could do for me. And the first time I actually decided to do a 3-day fast, it was water and coconut water only for 3 days. I was also moving out of my apartment and into the house that I just bought. So I pushed things to the extreme. So that's not the best example, but I knew that it was time for everything to change. So I completely rocked my diet, my way of thinking, my approach towards food, while also kicking the nicotine and tobacco that was in my system also. So I was in quite a flux for a long time, and people didn't recognize who I was. My mind started changing towards money. New opportunities came out of nowhere. Doors and windows started blowing wide open the further I got along that. As far as the emotional piece of it, I had to start moving my body, right? Once I got the eating part more under control, I would do fast for 3 days, no problem. I would do fast for a week, no problem, right? Once I got to the point where I wasn't ruining it on the weekend, like Harold's, I started getting better and more mindful about my own consumption, not only in my physical space, but the consumption of the energy around me, because these people just were not in no more. That really started to create some separation with people that I love, because they didn't understand what I was doing, nor did I have the energy, because I was focused, to explain it anymore, right? You can catch me at the finish line. After that, and realizing that I needed to start moving my body somehow, I got into yoga. And again, this was me at 400 pounds, so there are no excuses, right? I started doing yoga. Yes, it was hard. It was very, very hard at the beginning, because I realized you don't normally move your body like this, but the more you do it, the stronger you just become, period. both mentally and spiritually. It started to help me get in better touch with my emotions, because it's like you now have time to yourself to literally get in tune with yourself. A lot of people look at yoga, especially a lot of my male friends, right? They don't see the point in the activity, because flexibility, both mentally and physically, if you're not in athletics, is not of much important to them in day-to-day life, right? Which is a fair point. However, there's no downside to you being stronger, period. I don't care who you are, especially if we're talking about, this war on Black men. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't want to be as healthy as you can, and, constructing your body to move in a way that's physically fit and ready if something were to happen. Because the likelihood of things happening to us is way higher than most people, from what I understand. So getting in touch with that, then that changed into just working out more. Cycling is a big, big, big part of my life. And that's where the transformation really started to happen. Weight started melting. I was more active. I was, like Brother White said, out in nature more. I just rode down Lakeshore Drive yesterday, for 30 miles. And it was amazing. It was the first time I've done it in months. And my legs are burning up. Just to be in a place to be able to talk about it. And this isn't even really talking about the economical opportunities and things that have changed as far as my mind. Like going to therapy, I was unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable. There were things that I uncovered with therapy that were that were traumatic to me, that I suppressed, right? Because I convinced myself that I needed to be better, stronger, faster, and pay no attention to how wounded my mind was from things that I was convinced were okay, right? Family dynamics, friend dynamics, work dynamics, right? Things that you really put on the back burner because you believe that, okay, in order to be accepted in this friend circle, in order to be accepted in the family space, in the church space, and whatever spaces you occupy, you have to leave part of yourself out. A lot of people don't really look at wellness in a sense of really healing themselves because of the fear of being too different from those around them. So if you start your journey, you be ready to upgrade your circle.
I love it. And on that note, that brings me to the final question that I have for you, Dynamic Brothers, which is tell us, how can we pass along some of these healthy habits onto our future generation, whether that's how would you suggest they go about implementing changes, and like I think some of you said, how did you start? How do you recommend somebody get started? Whether it's, again, thinking about the economic, the emotional component, the physical component, what would you recommend, in your opinion, we should do, and how we can pass along those things to our future generation, our future kings and queens that will come once we're no longer here?
I would say journaling is one point, because when you start journaling and you see that you have a laundry list of problems, that's a great indicator that you may need a guide, someone to help you through your issues. Other than that, really sitting down and do some self-assessment, like, all right, I'm going out and 3 ladies kind of told me I had bad breath. Were they being mean, or do I need to do something about my bad breath? You got to think about what's going on and if it's a you thing or a them thing. And sometimes that's hard for people to decipher, because they're like, well, my mama don't say nothing about it. My daddy don't say nothing about it. Why are you saying something about it? And that's because everybody has a different level of norms, a different set of values and mores. We're not all going to be the same. You may come together with someone who is very, very similar, but it's not going to be completely mirrored. It's not going to look exactly the same or be exactly the same. So make sure you do that self-assessment piece, and don't just stop it once you like, I self-assessed, I need therapy. No more self-assessment. No, you keep doing it. You know, even if it's something you wrote down before, go back to something you wrote down in 2017, 2018 and look at it. See if things have changed. It's not, reevaluate it. Again, I am not perfect in any of these things, but I do journal and I do take down key notes. Like when y'all said some good stuff, went right into my life journal. I got a lot of different stuff in this journal. And that's just one of the things you can do. If you like music, maybe you can make music. If you like to, you know, cycle, you can ride your bike from one end of Lakeshore Drive to the next end and make a whole loop trip if you want to, you know, whatever makes you feel good. But it has to be something that you're going to do to help you move forward. Again, you want to create that safe place. It's so important to be safe. It's so important to be safe because when you feel safe, nothing's going to bother you. You don't have all those, as you said earlier, Brother Ron, distractions. You know, that real cute girl you had, maybe you're a distraction. I always say, Jesus didn't tell the disciples to go home and tell your wives you're leaving. He's like, come on, we're getting ready to do this. I mean, that's the thing. He said, kiss your kids on the head, tell them you'll be back in 3 years. You know, nope, come on, let's do this. And sometimes you got to have that attitude, and other times you got to realize where to place things. You know, what lane are you working through? So I'm just giving you some of the things that I've experienced and I try to implement in my life so that I don't get caught up, because it's easy to get stagnant, specifically with issues of the heart. You can get you stuck for a long time. And I'm not just talking about, you know, a partner. I'm talking about issues of the heart. Can be grandma's apple pie. It could be for me, sneakers. It could be anything about what you think is going to give you that some level of pleasure. So consider these things and think about what you can do to get the best possible results out of what you're doing. Because a lot of times it's the thing that you fear and the thing that you don't want to do, but it works. Just because you don't like it, don't mean you shouldn't do it. So sometimes you got to give things a chance and don't think that you're the only person with an idea in the room.
Yeah. I think a big piece of it is to look at it as progress over perfection, right? We live in a society of instant gratification. And this is an endeavor that does not come with instant gratification, but it's consistent gratification. There's a difference, right? Every move you make, every step you take is ultimately towards the better and best performing version of yourself. Now, if you've ever been in a place where you wanted to achieve higher heights, of course, that starts from within, right? You can't do that if you're laying around all day feeling bad about the last thing you just ate, right? Because that happens, you know, and it's not to point fingers or anything like that. It's more so taking mental account of how you're distributing your day, right? The time that you're given towards eating, digesting, the hedonistic mouth pleasures, right? The moment on the lips, lifetime on the hips thing is real. It absolutely is, right? If you take the opportunity to separate yourself from the temporary mouth pleasure, right? There are so many other pleasures that can be experienced beyond that. And it's not to say to not do the things that you enjoy, right? I still kick it. I still kick it like a lot of people, right? However, I've started to understand, you know, the balance and when I need to reignite the energy that is way more healthy, especially when there are things for me to accomplish. I know how to tap into that. You start to look at it as skills, like anything else. These are personal skills. When you know that you're capable of getting yourself up to work out, like I've just started strength training maybe a month or two ago, and it's hard. It's like starting over, right? You couldn't tell that I lost 200 pounds. right? Because I'm now shocking my body with something brand new that I'd never really done before. I just hit another personal milestone, right? Believe it or not. For my birthday last year, this is the first time in my life I was ever able to do 10 push-ups in a row. Now I can do 15. I'm proud of that. Yeah, the same person who can ride 30 to 50 miles a day just started doing 15 good, like actual correct form push-ups consistently. It's hard, right? I can do yoga. I can hold up my body weight. I was, again, pushing around 450 pounds. So I'm one of the people who you can't say I can't to, right? Because there are still things that are, that I'm learning that I've never been able to do. And that journey is exciting. If you find yourself in a place where and this is for everyone, where there's a better version of you that exists, we have to get over our fear of fear. That was probably the biggest hurdle for me. And it's not to say that I'm not insecure about things still, but fear is very real. And the more you attack it, the better version of yourself you unlock.
Yep. Agreed. Your words.
Yeah, I would say.
I like that part about attacking fear.
Yeah. I would definitely say trying to leave our people with some real practical and tangible, solutions. First of all, recognize that small steps, right? You don't always see big outcomes and you don't achieve major milestones. It won't happen overnight. Sometimes it's a matter of saying, you know what? Instead of eating 10 chicken nuggets today, I'm gonna eat 9. And then setting that next goal to, you know what? I'm gonna get to the place to where I'm eating 7 a day, right? And I'm just using chicken nuggets as an example. But approaching it step by step, we didn't get to the place to where we achieved these major milestones. They didn't happen instantaneously. 2, as African people, we recognize that we see ourselves as a part of a community, right? And so recognizing that, finding your support and tapping into your support, and recognizing that what you do on a personal level, it not only impacts you, but it impacts your community, it impacts your family. What we're doing right now, whether we know it or not, will impact maybe 4 generations from now, people will never come in contact with. We are in some ways reversing health outcomes. We are in some ways breaking emotional chains, right? And so just recognizing that it's not just about you, but what you are doing, you are planting the seed for those, not just even in the future. Sometimes, quite honestly, it's those right now, those family members that will be encouraged by. We know that some family members will, talk against you and discourage you, but at the same time, you'll have family members that will be very encouraged and they will make lifestyle changes. And the last piece I'll say is I love that the fact that we have a recording of this conversation, right? So this is documented. People can go back and listen to this conversation wherever they are. If they want to listen to it 2 times, 10 times, and say, you know what? Let me listen to that again. And that brother gave some really good advice. Let me write that down, or let me try to apply that. Creating a community, and like the brother said several times, a safe space where we can share advice, insight, tips, support, and that will ultimately be a part of us recognizing our value. Our value is, we talk about economic sovereignty, right? So there's a very real economic component to this, but as humans, we add value that really is priceless and unmeasurable.
Wow, this is so powerful. One thing I will add is that we're already doing is creating a new narrative and a face to what that reality looks like. We're already breaking generational curses, listening to the different stories that you have shared today about how you've moved through it, and regardless of how, systemic these issues have been, even in our own families, whether it's been, having soul food every holiday, or it's putting a new face on therapy, or just all the different elements that, we need to sort of experience in this new way of living. And so I want to just take time out to say we're so grateful for each brother that is represented in our segment today. I personally am inspired. I'm just floating on cloud nine, just hearing the stories, even more inspired just on my journey, as a queen, in the different things that I'm trying to do different and have been inspired to do different in my life. And I know that the viewers that are watching this will be inspired. I know that their lives will be changed. They will take these tips, they will take some of the feedback, some of the pieces of information that you shared, and they will write it in the journals as you shared, Brother Donnie. And I think, like Brother Ahmad said, just the journey to Lakeshore Drive, there's many paths and journeys that we're on, and so to be able to see a clear path to take new journeys, and Brother Robert being able to think about the economic impact to our community and not limiting ourselves, because when we walk out the door, there is a church or there's a liquor store. Well, the foundation of Ulu is that we're going to change that. You will begin to walk out in the community, and we want future generations to see a Black corner store. We want them to be able to see a grocery store with Black people, with Black products, with coloring books, with dolls that look like them, a bicycle segment that doesn't just show white folks riding, because Black people ride too. Again, we will be able to change some of these systemic narratives in a community where our young people, future generations, right, will be able to celebrate. They'll be able to remember a time where there wasn't Black stores, where they too can make a living wage. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to have Ulu, where we don't have to, again, have a Eurocentric way of doing this, but Black people, all people across the world, will be able to be inspired by your stories. And I will turn it over to Brother Robert to close us out.
Well, family, we pray that this has been an enriching episode for you. We pray that something was said that will inspire you, that will motivate you. We would love for you to get involved with Us Lifting Us. We're about building solutions. If you believe in cooperative economics, if you believe in the right to self-determination, if you believe in economic sovereignty, I encourage you to visit our website at usliftingus.com. Find out a little bit more about Ulu. Find out how you can get engaged. Find out how you can be a part of the New Reality team. We have several other committees as well. So regardless of where you are and when you're watching this, I want you to know we love you, we appreciate you, we value you. And until the next time, love, peace, and liberation. Peace.
Ashe, peace.
You are in tuned to the New Reality Forum.